In the spotlight tonight, Republican campaign strategist Rush Limbaugh. Rush thinks Mitt is doing a terrible job of fighting back against the Team Obama attack on Mitt as a pioneer of outsourcing. But Rush thinks he knows why Mitt isn't hitting back hard enough.
Romney knows how to do this. He did it to Newt, and he did it to Santorum. He knows full well how he has to do this. But I know what they think they're up against. They got the first black president, independents. It's easy to go after Newt or Romney because they're conservatives and everybody hates conservatives anyway. But we can't go after poor old Barack that way because he's a minority.
And so Rush decided to teach Mitt how to go after a minority. Rush thinks Mitt should be hitting Barack Obama as a lazy, drug-taking beneficiary of affirmative action. Rush didn't use the word shiftless, but Rush threw in every racist stereotype he could in his advice to Mitt.
Okay, so Mr. Limbaugh, since you have the answer to everything, then what would you suggest that Romney do if he's doing it? Okay, fine. Look, pal, when I was out creating jobs, investing in business, and growing this economy, you're at Columbia smoking weed, snorting coke. You write about it in your book. You talk about how you got into Columbia, the Harvard Law, and you didn't have to do anything. That was what's great about it. You loved getting into Columbia because all you had to do was go to class, get your grades, and smoke a little weed. Well, I was out building the country when you were doing that.
So, Mitt was building the country. I didn't know that. Why hasn't Mitt done more photo ops in front of the things that he built, like the interstate highway system that I was driving on today when I heard Rush say these things? So Mitt was building the country while the president was at Columbia smoking weed and snorting coke. Rush told his audience the president wrote that in his book, so it must be true that he was smoking weed and snorting coke at Columbia. In his book, President Obama writes of a difficult period in high school when he lost all contact with his father, who he had met only once when he was 10 years old. He wrote, "I had stopped writing to my father, and he'd stopped writing back. I had grown tired of trying to untangle a mess that wasn't of my making. I had learned not to care. Pot had helped, and booze, maybe a little blow, when you could afford it." That's it. That's what the president wrote in his memoir of his drug use. But the ditto heads listening to Rush believe that he wrote in his book that he was smoking weed and snorting coke at Columbia, which he got into, obviously, due to affirmative action, which is why he got into Harvard Law School, and that's why he became president of the Harvard Law Review, elected president because of affirmative action. Now, Rush could be bitter about Barack Obama's academic achievement because Rush was not elected president of the Harvard Law Review. In fact, Rush wasn't even a member of the Harvard Law Review because Rush didn't go to Harvard Law School or any law school. And he didn't go to law school because, well, he couldn't graduate from college. College was just too tough for Rush. And we're not talking about Columbia, one of the most academically rigorous institutions of higher learning in the world. We're talking about Southeast Missouri State University, the local college in Rush's hometown of Cape Girardeau, Missouri. Rush had to drop out of Southeast Missouri State University because it was academically overwhelming for him. This is according to Rush's mother, okay? Quote, "He flunked everything." That is a quote from Rush's mother. He flunked everything. How lazy or drug addicted did Rush Limbaugh have to be as a college student to flunk everything? Everything. And how much weed did Rush smoke as a college student? How much coke did he snort? This is a drug addict we're talking about. Rush Limbaugh is a drug addict. He grew up to be a radio talk show host, drug addict, who committed crimes to get his drugs and was convicted of those crimes while Mitt Romney was building the country, and suspended his appearances on his radio show to deal with his drug addiction. Rush Limbaugh hates Barack Obama, hates him. But he knows he can't say exactly those words. So this is the way Rush found today to say, I, Rush Limbaugh, hate Barack Obama.
I'll tell you what, I think it can now be said without equivocation. Barack Obama is trying to dismantle, brick by brick, the American dream. There's no other way to put this. There's no other way to explain this. He was indoctrinated as a child. His father was a communist, mother was a leftist, sent to prep Ivy League schools where his contempt for the country was reinforced.
So Ivy League schools reinforced contempt for America. Did Mitt Romney's Ivy League schools reinforce contempt for America? Did George W. Bush's Ivy League schools reinforce his contempt for America? And hey, did the Ivy League schools that all of these guys went to reinforce their contempt for America? And Barack Obama was indoctrinated by his father, who he met once? Was Rush Limbaugh indoctrinated by his father, who was a lifelong Republican and a delegate to the Republican National Convention in 1936? Here is what President Obama said that led Rush to say, without equivocation, that the president hates America.
Look, if you've been successful, you didn't get there on your own. You didn't get there on your own. I'm always struck by people who think, well, it must be because I was just so smart. There are a lot of smart people out there. It must be because I worked harder than everybody else. Let me tell you something. There are a whole bunch of hard-working people out there. If you were successful, somebody along the line gave you some help. There was a great teacher somewhere in your life. Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we had that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen. The internet didn't get invented on its own. Government research created the internet, so then all the companies could make money off the internet.
Joining me now are Joy Reid of thegrio.com managing editor and MSNBC contributor, and Steve Kornacki, co-host of MSNBC's The Cycle. Joy, all of those racist stereotypes that Rush was using are things that Mitt Romney can't say. Rush says very, very effectively. There's no mystery to what he's talking about there. Is it your sense that the Republican campaign is kind of, in a sense, relies on Rush for this?
You know, it's funny. I mean, that was so enjoyable. Just listening to that entire monologue was so funny because you got to remember.
Imagine me trying to drive while Rush is saying these things.
Driving, I know. And the thing is that Rush Limbaugh is speaking to an average age 67, even older than Fox News, right? Mm-hmm. These people out in the hinterlands who live where his syndicator owns all the stations and force places this radio show, which allows him to seem successful. It seems like he's talking to 20 million people. Mm-hmm. Of course, evil technology and the people meter has shown he really actually isn't, right? So he's got a declining sort of product. He's got an angry, miserable base that feels they're the true victims of American history, right? The blacks got everything. The women got everything. They're so lucky and we've got nothing. Rush Limbaugh had a privileged existence. He was born to an upper middle class family. He had every advantage, and he just couldn't get it done. This guy is president of the United States. Are you kidding? He thinks he's better than you. That is what Rush Limbaugh's message is. Problem. Mitt Romney's already got those people. those people are already going to vote for Mitt Romney. The problem is, if he listens to the likes of Rush Limbaugh, how does he get the others, the people who are not crazed with hatred for Barack Obama and with envy for what Barack Obama has achieved?
Steve, I want to replay a piece of what the president said that drove Rush so crazy today. It's this small section where he's talking about, infrastructure and starting businesses. Well, let's listen to that.
Somebody helped to create this unbelievable American system that we had that allowed you to thrive. Somebody invested in roads and bridges. If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Now, Rush is saying if you got a business, he's saying if you got a business, you didn't do it. No, what he's saying is if you got a business, you didn't build the roads and bridges. Right. The things he's talking about very clearly in the previous sentence, yes, you built your business. You didn't build the road going into your business.
Right, or more broadly, you didn't build the American system that he's talking about. What Obama is doing there, the context I think is important, is it's sort of a riff on Elizabeth Warren, who last fall had that viral video, you probably remember it, where she basically explained very, very clearly the social contract. The idea that nobody gets ahead in this country clearly and purely by themselves. Obama was trying to do that. I think he was a little inartful there in how he described it, so he opened himself up to somebody taking it out of context and doing what Limbaugh is doing. But the other thing that strikes me about Limbaugh, and Joy is right, you think about his listeners, sure, they're obviously not going to be voting for Obama. They're obviously going to be Romney voters. But I think there has been a question with Romney this entire time about the enthusiasm of the Republican base. They don't really believe he's authentically conservative. Limbaugh himself has said this about Romney. And what really drives them, what's going to get them to the polls, it's going to get them out in droves, is not that they like Romney and they want Romney to be president. This is the message they need to keep them motivated. All of the resentment, all of the resistance to Obama, and Limbaugh delivers that in a way Romney can't.
Russia's delivering personal hatred to the president. Steve Kornacki and Joy Reid, thank you both for joining me today. Sure. Coming up, Grover Norquist is losing it. He's losing his grip on Republican senators, and he may be losing his grip on his sanity. Wait till you hear what he said today. And later, anti-China tough guy Mitt Romney is afraid to say what he thinks about Team USA's Olympic uniforms being made in China. That's coming up.